Hey everybody, what's up? I thought in this video I'd do something a little bit different, and that is to look at the mental side of poker. And we all spend so long focusing on how to play ace-9 out of position or how to deal with tricky, loose, aggressive opponents, which of course is important. But the problem is that we fail often to spend enough time on the mental side, which is at least as important as the technical side of poker. And what normally gets our attention when we talk about the mental side is tilting, because obviously this is a huge issue for us. I'm not going to cover that in much detail. I think a lot of people who are much better than me at dealing with this have already made good videos, and I'm going to talk about something else instead, and that is how important focus is and how you can improve your focus and the right way to go about that. So first of all, I'm just going to briefly talk about what focus is and why it's important. And focus or concentration is what helps us process information better, meaning that if there's a whole lot of information coming in, sensory data information, focus is what's going to help select the important information from the unimportant information. And this really is so crucial in poker. It's going to help you pick up clues or tells better, such as betting patterns. You're going to notice when someone's tightening up better. You're going to notice when someone's loosening up. You're going to notice when someone's tight aggressive and not loose aggressive, which is maybe your initial read. You're going to notice when someone appears tilted, or their timing tells, their sort of bet sizing tells. All of these little sort of almost subconscious clues, not quite subconscious, but almost subconscious clues that are there, but you don't pick them up unless you're really focused. And the difference sometimes between having a winning day and a losing day, or a sort of crushing day as opposed to a mediocre day, is how accurately you pick up on these clues and then act on them. So focus is crucial, and now I'm going to go through a few slides explaining, how can you maximize your focus at the tables. So let's take a look at what to avoid. And top of the list here is hunger. If your blood sugar is low, then pretty soon your bank account is going to be low. The worst thing you can do is wake up Saturday morning after a long work week, turn on your computer, start grinding away. You haven't even bothered to get any food into you. Pretty soon things are not going to be going your way. Your attention span is going to be much worse than normal. You'll be getting a little bit irritable because of the low blood sugar and more prone to tilt. And basically not eating is the same as not winning in the long term. So make sure that you have a small snack. If you're going to play a long session, then I would suggest that you schedule some create some sort of food schedule where you're going to have a series of small snacks, maybe a piece of fruit every hour or so, and that will help you play longer and play your best at all times. The next point here is noise. The more auditory input that you have, the less focus you're going to have, because part of your attention span is going to be dealing with that auditory input, meaning that let's just have a little example here. Let's say that you're playing a poker game and all of a sudden your hand phone rings. Immediately your attention has been distracted and you're no longer quite as focused. Now if you've got these noises going on constantly, at some level your brain is monitoring this input, and that is detracting from your overall ability to focus. So make sure the TV's off, don't have any music or radio playing in the background. I know a lot of guys like to grind to music. What I would suggest is that you save the music for a special treat between sessions. So maybe you've played for 20 or 30 minutes and now you can have a small break and you listen to a song and just completely relax, and then you come back and refocus and start playing again. The other thing is, you don't want to be talking to people. The fact that you are talking and listening is going to detract from your focus. Make sure your hand phone is turned off if that's possible, and don't play in overly noisy environments. I mean, I've read that people play in cafes and bookshops and this sort of thing. Unless you had no other choice, there's no way I would want to be playing in such a noisy, sort of disturbing environment. Alright, this next point, anger, or tilt as we call it, obviously a lot of people have written about this phenomenon, and it is, well, I've got a few things that I would like to add. First of all, if you know that you are already upset, maybe something's happened that's annoyed you, or you're upset because of previous games, or you've had an argument with your family or whatever, the worst thing you can do is play poker. That's going to sort of translate into some sort of super monkey tilt, and you may not even be aware of it. Often tilt can be sort of below the surface, and we're not aware that we're so upset, and the end result is you're playing horrible sort of poker and giving away your roll. So if you know that you're upset, don't then sit at the poker table. You might think, well, I'm fine to play poker, which is what I mean is like, you know, the tilt is kind of below the surface. You don't think you're upset as far as it comes to playing poker, but that anger will translate into your poker and you're not going to play well. The other thing I would say is that you don't want to get too emotionally involved in the game. You're making rational decisions, not emotional decisions. And things that can affect that might be, for example, getting into a chat war with your opponent. Plenty of times some guy has said something, or I've said something to somebody to start off a chat war, and in no time we're abusing each other, telling each other what idiots we are, and this sort of thing. And apart from the fact that it's unprofessional, it stops you playing your best. And my suggestion, if your opponent is being rude to you, is simply wait until you've won the match, and then you can gloat or tell him what an idiot is, or whatever's going to make you happy. But don't do it before you've won the match, because of two things. First of all, you'll play worse, and second of all, you may not end up winning, in which case your frustration is going to be doubled. Not only has this guy insulted you, but he's also beaten you. So wait until you've won, and then you can have the last laugh. And the other thing, as far as avoiding emotion in the game is concerned, I would suggest that you don't watch flips. And I know what I used to do is, like, let's say I get it in with ace king against 6-6, you know, all in pre-flop or something, and I'm sitting there watching the flop, watching the turn, watching the river, and I'm saying to myself, ace, 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 like some sort of idiot, you know, can I hit my card, one time, and on all this sort of rubbish. And what happens when you hit the ace is you get some sort of emotional high, and when you miss, you sort of plummet to some sort of emotional low. And these extreme emotions are not good for playing sort of great poker. You want to be fairly emotionally neutral and just be making rational decisions and playing sort of not a results-based game, but a process-based game, meaning that you do whatever you think is right and you're not so worried about the results. So the solution here is, when you're in a flip, simply look away from the screen, maybe flick to your web browser, something like this, come back when the hand is already finished, and then a lot of the emotional impact will be taken out of it. The hand's over, there's nothing you can do, and you've either won or lost, and you won't feel quite so bad or quite so good. I remember when I was a bridge player, and what someone once said to me, which has always stuck, is, if you play a hand poorly, forget about it. And at the same time, if you play a hand well, forget about it. The point being, don't get too involved in that sort of thing. Just play your best all the time, and don't sort of get wound up in these emotional highs and lows. Alright, the next point is fatigue, and fairly obviously, if you're playing tired, things are not going to go very well for you. What tends to happen when you're not 100% is, if you're running well, you might get away with it, but the minute that you start running just a little bit poorly, things go downhill fast, much worse than if you were playing your A game. So don't play tired. The other thing is, don't play long sessions. the adult attention span is about 20 minutes. And if you've hit that 20-minute barrier, your game is now going to go downhill whether you know it or not. So you should play for 20 minutes, take a little mini break to reset your attention, and come back and play again. The next point, alcohol or drugs. I mean, it's just tragic the number of times people have messaged me, or I've read on 2+2 or something like this, they played drunk and busted their roll. And you almost never hear about the guy who plays drunk and actually won money, so that does not happen very often. If you're likely to play drunk, then what I suggest that you do is, when you know that you're heading out drinking, ban yourself for 12 hours so that you can't do any damage from your roll. And all good poker sites have self-exclusion options where you can say, I don't want to be able to play for the next 12 hours or 24 hours or something like this. Use those self-exclusion options when you're going out on the town, and your bankroll will be a lot happier for it. Alright, and this final point I want to talk about is volume goals. And you might be thinking, why on earth am I telling you to avoid volume goals? I think volume goals, specifically when you say, I'm going to play a high number of matches, like today I'm going to play 80 matches or whatever, these are so detrimental to your bankroll. I understand the logic. I make $1 per game, therefore if I play 80 games, that's $80. Therefore today I'm going to play 200 games and make $200. That's $6,000 in a month, and in 3 months I can buy that new car. It's great in theory. In reality, what happens is you set out to play X amount of games, we'll call it 100 games or whatever, 200 games, and all of a sudden things go terrible. You have a horrible session and you're not quite sure why. Well, the reason is that if you are intending to play a long session, subconsciously you end up rushing your games. You know that you want to play another 30 games and you will be looking for spots to end the games, whereas if you weren't so focused on getting X amount of games done, you would have been more patient in that spot. So volume goals means playing your C game, means quite possibly losing money. So I would suggest that you really avoid volume goals. What you should be doing is setting time goals. So a time goal might be, I'm going to play 50 minutes and then take a break. And however many games I play in 50 minutes, that's fine, but I play my 50 minutes and then I take a break and then I come back and play another 50 minutes. So if you calculate how many games you normally play in 50 minutes, you can organize it so that you kind of can achieve the same amount of volume, but because you're focused on playing according to a set amount of time as opposed to a set amount of volume, subconsciously you won't be rushing. So this is a kind of a fine point, but I think it's absolutely crucial. Avoid volume goals at all costs. Alright, we've talked about what to avoid, and now we're going to have a look at what to do in order to improve your focus. Okay, so here we come to what are the positive things that you can do in order to improve your focus, not just eliminating other things, but the positive things. And the first thing I would suggest is that you have some sort of warm-up routine. A warm-up routine is designed to get you playing your A game. And to use an analogy here, can you imagine any sporting team that would not have a warm-up before it went on the pitch? I mean, Manchester United are going to be out there kicking balls and doing drills before they play against Chelsea. It would just be incredible to imagine a team that comes straight cold off the bus, jumps onto the pitch and plays a game. This is essentially what you're doing if you don't have a warm-up. What I suggest that you do is make sure that your blood sugar levels are good, eat a snack before you play, review some hand histories, focus on playing your best poker, and then start playing your A game. Don't just come in cold, turn on your computer, fire it up, play, and wonder why you don't play so well in the first couple of games. Playing the game is not a warm-up. A warm-up where you prepare yourself mentally to play the game is a warm-up. Alright, the next point here is the schedule. I think if you are planning to play according to a schedule, then you are planning to succeed. And I would suggest that you have 1 hour playing sessions which are divided up into 20-minute pieces, sort of little mini breaks. Basically, this is a form of chunking, and the idea behind chunking is that you make what seems like a large task more achievable by breaking it into smaller tasks. So for example, if you have to walk 100 meters, then you say to yourself, I'm going to walk 10 meters, and then I'm going to take a break, and then I'm going to walk another 10 meters. Obviously 100 meters isn't actually a large task, but you get the idea there. By breaking it into smaller, more achievable tasks, it helps you approach it better. Now, if you're playing an hour, it's quite a long time, just focus on 20 minutes. I am going to play my best for the next 20 minutes. My absolute A game. I will play, as well as I possibly can, concentrate as hard as I can. After that 20 minutes, which as I said before is your maximum attention span, take a break for a few minutes, come back and play another 20-minute session, and then take a break, and then your final 20-minute session, take a longer break now, and then come back and play another hour later on. By scheduling like this, you will maintain your focus at its highest point, and this will lead to your best results. And my final point here is to monitor your emotions. It's too late when you're already on monkey tilt and clicking buttons or smashing buttons, throwing away money as fast as you can. You need to take a break before that stage, so closely monitor how upset or frustrated or annoyed you're getting. And when you see it go up even just a little bit, annoyed, say, okay, at the end of this 20 minutes, I'm now taking a slightly longer break, and I will come back. Poker will still be there in 5 minutes, or 10 minutes, or even 2 hours or a week. So, however long it takes you to calm down completely back into a completely neutral, emotion-free zone where you're just operating rationally, that's how long you take. Don't wait until it's too late. Look for the warning signs. Alright, so that's what to strive for. And just to finish this, I'm going to have a quick look at my schedule so you can see an example of how I do things. So this is my schedule. I use this pretty much every day, and you can see the first thing there is the warm-up. I have breakfast. Even if I'm not hungry, I have a snack. I need to get my blood sugar up, and then I review a hand history or two. It's not really me trying to look for errors in my play. It's rather the fact that this focuses me on poker and starts me thinking about poker. It gives me a chance to play my A game. Now you can see that first session is from 11 until 12 o'clock. I mean, that's because I wake up late, and that's what poker players do. But yeah, from 11 to 12 o'clock. And I will take breaks in that first session after every 20 minutes, and a break between sessions, and I choose to take an hour break, which I think is just about right for me. This focusing on playing for a set amount of time really helps me play better. The next point here is focus hard on every game. I've just got this because I keep this schedule as a sticky on my computer, and I read it every morning, despite the fact that I know it backwards. I read it every morning before I play, and it just reminds me you've got to focus on every game, every decision. The other thing here, the next point, is don't look at the cashier or count wins and losses. And the reason that I have that in here is because I'm trying to be process orientated and not results orientated. And this is part of staying emotionally stable when you're playing, emotionally neutral. If I see that I've won 6 games or something, I might get sort of happier. If I see that I've lost 6 games, I might get sort of unhappy. And these are not states that I'm hoping to achieve. I'm hoping to stay emotionally stable, no great highs and no lows, as I mentioned before. Looking at the cashier or counting my wins and losses leads to highs and lows, so I avoid that. Alright, the next point here is don't rematch opponents who beat you twice. This is part of my schedule because often I get a little bit egotistical, and if someone beats me, I want to come back and sort of teach them a lesson. But the problem is, if someone's beaten me twice, either they don't match up well against me, even if they're not a good player, they might simply have a style which, I'm not handling well at that moment. And the other thing is, if that's not the case, maybe they've sucked out on me. If they've sucked out and beaten me in 2 matches, then of course I'm going to be a little bit more upset than usual and not quite playing as well as I can. So playing people who beat you a couple of times is normally negative EV, and I suggest that you simply give them up and go play someone else. Now this might be different if you're playing the 500 to the 1000 or something like that, and it's a much more limited player pool. But for 99% of people, there's so many other players they can play. If someone beats you twice, even if he's lucky, just avoid him. Alright, this next point is single table unless I'm feeling really sharp. And I have done a lot of 2-tabling, but at the moment I'm playing Super Turbos, and I think in these it's much more important to be single tabling, and unless I'm feeling super sharp, then that's what I'm going to do. And the final thing is focus on my opponent. As you've probably picked up from my videos, what he does is more important than what I do, because I need to be reacting to him and sort of setting him up, and the opponent is the most important thing. Heads up. Okay, so that's this video on some different aspects of the emotional side of poker, of sort of the mental side, playing your best poker, playing your A game at all times. I hope that you've enjoyed it. I know it's probably aimed more at beginners than sort of advanced players, but even as an advanced player, it does not hurt to go through this again and sort of be reminded of a lot of these points, and maybe there's a point or two in there that you haven't come across before. So until the next video, I hope you run good and take care.